Hey guys, my name is Matsumio, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Jonathan, and it is, what do you think about a Battle Royale mode for Rainbow Six Siege? So I realize there's been a lot of talk lately about how many games are trying to incorporate BR into their own, and for some of them it makes sense, but I don't think that applies to Rainbow Six Siege whatsoever. The reason why I don't think it'd be all that fun is that if you've ever played something like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, you know that if you have to run out in the open because the circle is pressuring you, you have to move from point A to point B, if someone tries to take you out and you have no cover, you're at a severe disadvantage. Like, just being out in the open by itself really sucks in that game. But now imagine if there was a one-shot headshot mechanic in that game for every single weapon. I don't know about you, but having no way of knowing where someone is and then all of a sudden getting taken out of nowhere and having practically no way of dealing with that situation, it's just, you're gone, you're dead, you gotta move on to the next round. That doesn't sound like the most enjoyable gameplay experience. On top of that, Rainbow Six Siege isn't really known for its large-scale, expansive maps. They would basically need to create something from the ground up to make this work. Now, some people have tried to make the argument that they could just create a really large mall map. It's indoors, so it still sort of resembles the same kind of gameplay that everyone's grown to expect with Rainbow Six Siege. You could have destruction and stuff to that nature, but at least it's not on a large-scale outdoor map like every other BR game out there. And while that might work, that comes with its own problems. How are you going to get people to move towards the center? If it's a circle like everything else out there right now, well, if someone's on one side of the wall and one's on the other side, if there's no opening and you have no way of getting through said wall with a breaching charge, for example, you might just lose simply because of the circle because you can't get to the other side. Probably the biggest issue with this idea, though, is that this sounds like a camper's paradise, and the gameplay that would result of that would be a nightmare. And so all in all, I don't think that a Battle Royale mode has any business being in Rainbow Six Siege, and it looks like Ubisoft agrees. They came out with a statement saying that they have no plans of incorporating this into the game, and I think that's for the best, but of course that is just my 2 cents. The next question is, do you think they should make a colorblind mode in Siege because one of my friends bought it but can't really play it properly? Absolutely. I'm actually surprised that Ubisoft hasn't incorporated something like this, especially considering how popular the game has gotten over the years. Now, some people might think, really, how much is this going to hamper their gameplay? But there's actually a lot of examples where being colorblind puts you at a pretty severe disadvantage. A really good example of this are claymores. If you're colorblind to red and you have a difficult time seeing that color, those red lines that jut out of the claymore are going to be nearly invisible. And so unless you're just staring directly at the ground looking for the claymore, you're going to get taken out of nowhere, and that's going to be incredibly frustrating. A really long time ago, when CanCan had his red laser sight that went across a doorway, that was the biggest indication that his trap was there. Once again, if you were colorblind to red, you're not seeing that, and while now it wouldn't be all that big of a deal because it does 60 damage, back then it would one-shot you. If you use Lion's Gadget, for example, the red outline around the player, once again, you have a hard time seeing that, and so his gadget becomes practically useless. There are a lot of examples where having a colorblind mode would be a really helpful tool for those players. And so yeah, I 100% agree with you on this one. Other popular video games are able to have a colorblind mode. I don't see why that wouldn't be feasible for Rainbow Six Siege. The next question is, are you worried that with the extensive player customization in Battlefield 5, that it's going to be difficult to tell what class you're going against? When DICE first announced that they were going to be adding in a crazy amount of customization into Battlefield 5, my first thought was, cool. I like being able to customize my character, make it unique. I know that some people are not happy about that whatsoever, but that's a whole other can of worms that we're not going to open right now. But the second question I had was, isn't this going to make it very difficult to be able to identify not only who you're going against, but what are your teammates that are surrounding you? One thing I've always enjoyed about the Battlefield franchise is that DICE has done a good job over the years at creating player silhouettes and player models that look distinctive. When I look at someone, I know what class they are. That's a medic. I know by the very look of him. I know that that's a recon out in the distance. I may want to close the gap so that he doesn't have an advantage. Oh, that's an engineer charging at me. I'm playing as a medic. I don't have the best tools for close encounter combat. I'm going to try to keep my distance. This is something that has always been an integral part of the franchise, and I'm worried that by allowing players what it seems like to be able to customize their character any way they want, that player silhouettes and that look is gonna go away. Now, my hope is that DICE realizes that this is an issue, and they're going to create customization that is specific to certain classes. So yes, you might be able to have a wide variety of different looks and different options when you're playing as a support class, but those are only available to the support class. So if you see someone in a trench coat, for example, then you know that, oh, that is only available to that one class. I know what I'm going against. The problem with that, though, is that that limits the amount of customization, or that would mean that they'd have to create an incredible amount of customization to make it as fleshed out as it sounds like they want it to be. My worry is that they're not going to go down that route. They're going to allow you to pick and choose however you want to look, and you're basically just going to have to deal with that. And while I don't think it's going to be the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination, it might lead to some frustrating moments when you have no way of knowing what kind of class you're going up against. The next question comes from Braden, and it is, do you think that they should put new DLC maps only in casual first so people can get used to them? So I can fully understand where people are coming from, where they would want new maps that are introduced to go into casual first, and then if they're deemed to be worthy of ranked, incorporate on over into the ranked rotation. If you're trying to grind it out to diamond or platinum or whatever your goal is, and if you get that new map over and over and over in ranked, if you lose because of that, because you just don't know what's going on, you haven't learned all of the ins and outs of it, it can be pretty frustrating. This also would have avoided the tower situation. It would have stayed in casual for a couple of months. Maybe next season they realize, yeah, not the most competitive, and then it never would have been added into ranked, and we would never had to deal with that for like the last 6 months. That is a really good argument for that. The reason why I don't mind these maps being brought into rank from the very beginning is, first of all, I think this incentivizes their map team to try to create something that is well balanced. They know that it's going into ranked. They need to make sure that it's competitive, but also this is new content that I want to enjoy. I don't really enjoy casual. It's fun every once in a while, especially if you're playing with a bunch of buddies and you're just messing around. But to jump into solo queue just so you can try to learn the new map is not really the most enjoyable experience for me. I do not like the 4-minute timer. I know that some people probably think that that is a really weird thing not to like, but it really slows down the game. In that sense, you'd basically be forcing people to play a mode that they just simply don't enjoy so that they can learn the map. If next season they do actually add it into ranked, all those people that avoided casual because they just didn't want to experience it now have no idea how that map plays out, and everyone that did play casual have an advantage in those situations. And so I realize there's no perfect solution here. Each side has its pros and cons. Those are the reasons why I don't really mind them being first introduced to rank from the very beginning. The next question is, do you think that they should take off nighttime in ranked? So I realize that not everyone is going to agree with me on this one, but I would not complain about this change whatsoever. Rainbow Six Siege, I realize, has come a long ways over the years. If you guys were here since the very beginning, there was a moment, it was more like years, where if you were on a daytime map and you looked outside of a window, it looked like you were staring into the sun itself. On the opposite end of the spectrum, though, if you were on the outside looking in on offense, it looked like you were staring into the void. It was hard to have consistent, reliable gameplay when you just didn't know what was out there. Dying seemingly out of nowhere to something that you can't see was very frustrating. Thankfully, I think after Operation Health, things have improved dramatically, at least for daytime maps. Nighttime maps, on the other hand, not so much. There are some moments where I know that it's just so dark to peer outside that I just don't stare through the window. Even though I know I would have an advantage because I have a nice angle, I know that as soon as I do so, I'm putting myself at a risk because I just can't see what's going on the outside. And so I fully understand that this would be a band-aid fix. The better solution would just be to create gameplay and a better lighting system so that if you are playing a nighttime map, this doesn't become a problem. Like, I understand that, but this would just be a very, very simple solution. And so, a long story short, I do agree with you. I think in the long term, a better solution to all of this would just be to improve the darker sections of the map. Not even on the outside, there are some inside components in rooms, especially on Theme Park, for example, where it would just be nice if it wasn't so dark. Now, maybe Ubisoft has done this intentionally because they want to introduce more stealthy, shadow-like gameplay, but I kind of feel like that goes against their policy of trying to make this as a competitive experience, especially when you are playing as ranked. Yeah, it might be cool to play as Vigil and assume the darkness and become one with the shadow with his really dark camo and just blend into the environment when you're playing on Tower or Theme Park, but when you're on the receiving end, it just simply sucks. And so, yeah, I agree with you. Long term, I feel like there's better ways of handling it, but if they do want to focus and make it more competitive, I don't think that removing the nighttime maps would be the worst thing ever. But of course, that is just my 2 cents. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Would you like to have a Battle Royale mode added into Rainbow Six Siege? Do you not like that idea? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.